which you're going to tell us about in a nursing home in South Australia. Peter.
Yeah, thanks very much, David, for giving me this opportunity. I've got a dear friend who was in a hospital, and she's been moved into the nursing home side of things. But to go in there from the hospital, she had to have a flu injection. And she was very, very worried about that because many years ago, and I think it was about 30 years ago, she had one and she became very ill. And I'm very worried about this because if you haven't had the flu shot and you go into these nursing homes or whatever, and everybody there seems to get the jab, it's compulsory, then there's nothing to worry about. I mean, if I refuse to have a flu shot, that's my problem. I'm the one at risk. If you've had the flu shot, that's fine. To me, it should be about choice, not compulsory. And I'll give you another example where I know a lot of people in aged care as carers, David. And one particular person has been sacked recently because he refused to have a flu vaccine. So he's out of work. I know another person that's gone on long service leave because she doesn't want to have the flu vaccine. She's very, very worried that she might have an allergic reaction. We're going to lose a lot of good people as carers and in the healthcare side of things with this forced vaccination. And I think it's against our rights, our freedoms. I really do. I don't want to put this stuff into my body. If you have one, that's fine. I haven't got a problem with that. But, you know, you're getting this jab every year. How much chemicals are we putting in our body? And another thing that worries me is we're not letting our immune system work. We've got to build up, immunities. And I'm just not for it myself. I mean, years ago with polio and TB and different things, but the world's a different place today, and I'm a little bit worried about what's in these vaccines. So personally, I don't want them, and if I'm at risk, well, I'm at risk.
I remember when I was a boy at school, and we were told, or we had to get our parents' approval for some vaccinations. My parents were reluctant. And I remember I had to really talk them into it because I felt embarrassed that I wasn't getting the same as the other boys. Then when I was conscripted, there was no choice. You just were injected. I remember one boy in a queue, we were going to get some injection. One boy in a queue got injected twice. And he said, hey, you injected me twice. And the soldier was doing, he said, well, you didn't move fast enough. And later on he fainted because he'd been injected twice. And I didn't bother about flu injections until recently, and I've tried them. But I think this is a matter of freedom. And I agree with you. It seems to me to be logical that if the vaccinations are working, that why are people worried about other people not getting injections? Because the injections presumably will protect most of the people who have had the injections. And I think in a free society, we should be very reluctant to make anything compulsory unless it is absolutely necessary. And I think sometimes we are too free in making things compulsory. And we've seen this in the lockdown that the governments have imposed on us, where I think the governments they've gone completely power mad. And you have, for example, premiers saying that at the present time you can have 10 people, for example, in a church. Whereas look at St Mary's Cathedral in Sydney. You could fit 100 people easily in St Mary's Cathedral because it's so vast. They wouldn't be near one another, and I can't see what the justification is in saying you can only have 10. And now they're saying, well, you're going to have 50 now, and then at a certain time so much, and some occupations can have them, but others can't. And I think the authorities are really becoming power mad about controlling our lives in minute detail. And I think compulsion should only come in when it is only absolutely necessary and for some really important purpose, an emergency, for example, such as the conscription of people for military service. But I don't think it should come in easily.
David, this is interesting. This particular friend of mine that's in the nursing home, her son and daughter-in-law couldn't come and visit unless they had the flu injection. So this, you get a laugh out of this. So they went and had the flu injection, and that day went in and visited her. All as they needed to show was the document. So how long does this vaccination take to get into your system?
It sounds very bureaucratic, Peter. It sounds very bureaucratic. Now, I agree that the principle must be government is limited and only does things which are necessary, and control should only be absolutely those that are necessary.
What's going to happen down the track, David, just looking ahead, and let's say with this Chinese virus, there's a vaccine, and who's to say that with these power-hungry politicians, we know how they want to control us, people on the pension that say, no, look, we don't want to have that vaccine. Who's to say down the track they say, well, we're going to cut your pension if you don't have this vaccine, or we won't employ you, full stop, if you don't have this vaccine. We'll take away your driver's license if you don't have this vaccine. I mean, we've got to be very, very careful how far we go with all this. We really do.
Yes, I think the important principle is that people should be free and governments should only control us where it is shown definitely to be absolutely necessary for some very good purpose. And I agree with you. I don't think we should easily agree with compulsion. I think we've seen that in relation to the Wuhan virus from China, where all sorts of things have been done under compulsion, and I think that many of them have been shown to be unnecessary. And had the politicians followed world best practice, which comes from Taiwan, they wouldn't have done what they did. And for example, they've effectively closed down all small business, all private business, or a lot of private business. But the public sector has been completely protected. The politicians have been completely protected. I heard a politician on television the other night saying in relation to transport, well, we can't have too many people on trains. What you've got to do is wait for the next train or wait for the next bus. And I thought, well, you won't be doing that. You have a chauffeur-driven car. You won't have to wait for the next bus or the next train. And it's ridiculous that the politicians are trying to so minutely control our lives. And that applies equally to vaccinations. I think people, unless there's some demonstrated reason, which is overwhelming, where there should be compulsion, I can't see why there should in any way be compulsion on people.
Thank you very much, David, for common sense. I do appreciate it. And thanks for giving me the time to bring that issue up. Thank you very much.
Thank you too, Peter. And that's the end of tonight's program.
Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.